Welcome in again. I'm so excited to be here with you as today we talk very specifically about your one. You need to know the person you're meant to serve. You need to understand it clearly, powerfully, importantly. You need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is whom I'm meant to serve. When we really truly identify that one person, and we know what they need. And then we figure out what is it that I do that can meet that person's need. When we do that, then all the other answers to everything that comes our way, it's there. So today, let's talk about our one. Let's look deeply at our one person and really know how to do this. Now, there is a after we do these next three lessons or along with these three lessons that are all talking about your one, we do have a custom GPT for it as well, and it's going to really help you. We're going to build on what we did in the last three lessons with our passion and purpose definer. We're going to take the outcome from that. So, like I reminded you, you need to save that stuff, and then you need to take it so that we can then build from it to build our one. We want to know. Now, some of you have maybe heard the phrase avatar, and not the movie itself, but our avatar is our one person. When we try to talk to everybody, we end up actually speaking to nobody. Um, it's like if you aim at nothing, you'll probably hit it, right? Um, we all too often want our product. We even know that our product is something that everybody could use. Toothpaste. Toothpaste is something that everybody should brush their teeth. But when we begin to start speaking to our audience, when we start going from invisible to visible, from unseen to the authority, we have to be very specific as to exactly who we're talking to and what we're saying. And so when we talk really, really clearly to a single person, we then can make powerful, massive impact on that person. Here's the thing: when you talk to everybody, you end up missing everyone because you're not specific. Nobody can resonate with it. When you talk very specifically to that one person, what you actually end up finding is people that aren't exactly that one person, they get excited about you too. I learned this process that we're going to be walking you through here and that the GPT is based on from a good friend of mine that was actually one of the marketing directors for Nike. Nike, whenever they bring out a product, they're not going to bring out anything that they're not going to sell millions upon millions of. It's just not worth their time and it's not their business model. But what they do before they bring that product out is they set aside a room on their campus in Beaverton, Oregon, and a whole team of marketers get together and they define the avatar. They want to know her very specifically. They're going to give her a name. What does she look like? What is she into? All those kind of things. We're going to talk really specifics. We're going to walk you through every single one of those. And then the GPT is going to take it even further than that to really help you develop and know clearly and specifically who your one person is. Because when you know them at the level that Nike does, and they take like 6 to 8 weeks to do this, we're going to talk 6 or 8 minutes here about it and give you a GPT that's going to massively, put on the nitrous again and put you into high speed, super high gear from that to really help you define that really clearly right here, right now, today. And so let's really dive into it. Specificity. Being specific is the number one piece of that. And all too often, what we want to do is we want to say, well, it's a person that's 25 to 55 years old. We've moved away from the everybody, and now we've got this giant group of people. Anybody that is 55 or older can tell you from experience, you know what it's like when you were 25, what things were interesting and what stuff were you doing in life. And then now that you're 57 or like me, 58 years old, you know what things were like when you were 55. Just how massively different your life is. When you're talking to a 25-year-old, you're talking in the languaging and in the ideas and the concepts and the world experience of a 25-year-old. If it's a 25-year-old that's a married woman who has a brand new baby, those of you that have ever had a newborn, you know how all life consuming that is. Whereas if you're a 55-year-old and your baby just left to go to college and you're an empty nester and your children that you've spent the last 30 years raising, multiple children. Hopefully your child didn't live at your house until they were 30. But all of that time, and now you're here alone. And it's a different world. And you have to look at your spouse and be like, hey, let's create this new world for us. Because if we don't, we're going to go our separate ways. And that's not cool either. We want to be together. We need to be really specific. And I'm going to encourage you, you need that to be an exact number. I know it's pushing you. I get it. I understand. I've done this thousands of times with people, and every single one of them wants to push back and go, well, yeah, okay, then they're between 25 and 30. Even that, think of the transitions that have happened in your own life that have happened in days or weeks, let alone what's going to happen in a year or 2 years or 5 years. Think about where you were a year ago. Think about the fact that, if you're listening to this live when I'm recording it in 2025, 5 years ago, we were completely locked down. You were basically told to never leave your house ever again by this point. We had gone beyond 15 days to stop the spread, 30 days to stop the spread. And we were pretty much just don't go anywhere. Wear a mask around your house even, and just give up living, right? I mean, there was that point in 2020 where it was just like, the whole world threw up its hands and just said, we can just hide at home forever and then maybe we won't die of COVID, right? I mean, and that was just in 5 years. Think about how different it was from June. Well, no, let's not even do that. From December of 2019 to April of 2020. Okay, so just in those few months. So we want to be really specific. No age is wrong. There's no wrong answers. I'll give you a little insider tip. If you don't have an avatar at all and you're brand new in business, you're just starting out and you're just really kind of getting your feet wet and discovering it, almost always you are your avatar. You or your best friend or that one client that you've helped, that is your avatar right now. Once you've worked with hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or millions of people, you're going to have a really clearly defined avatar. For some of you, this is going to be something that you already have down pat, and that's great. I want you to still go through this and ask yourself. I want you to get some of these clarifying questions. So exactly how old? And then from there, is it male or female? Now I know that there could be all kinds of other things. So let's just say, what gender do they identify as? Okay. There's no wrong answers, just whatever they think. Are they married or single? And you could expand that if you want to. They're single but in a committed relationship. They're whatever that might be. Okay. The understanding is the clarity of knowing exactly who the person is that you're talking to, right? Do they have children? And I mean, we could even go deeper into the, married or single. How long have they been married? Is this a first marriage? If it isn't a first marriage, is it just a second or is it a third, fourth, fifth? I mean, maybe they're, in their fifth marriage. I mean, maybe you're working with 65-year-old women who have been married 3 times and want to find a fourth husband. I don't know what your specific niche is, but whatever that is, you want to be really specific. And then, like he said, do they have children? How old are the children? There's such a difference between the babies and even the toddlers, let alone between when they're babies and when they're in elementary school, and then when they're in junior high and when they're in high school, and then when they leave the house, and then when they come back. You know what I'm saying? And then when they leave again, when they're married themselves, when you start having grandbabies, all of those kind of clarities. Where do they live? Are they a city person? They live in a high-rise building in, right on Central Park in New York. Or are they a suburban person? They moved, and again, if we're using the New York analogy, they moved across the bridge and they're actually in a suburb in New Jersey now. And they're what people over there call bridge and tunnel rats, right? They still work in the city, but they live in Jersey. Okay, there's a lot of people that live that lifestyle. Or maybe they're more rural. Maybe they've done like I have and they moved from, a much more populated area like I was in California to literally the middle of nowhere in central Kansas, to a little town of 400 people where it's a half an hour drive to the grocery store. Life is a lot different, and I can tell you absolutely. It can be a culture shock. It was 2.5 years ago when I got here. And now it kind of meets into, kind of a routine, and there's some things that you like about it. Deeper and deeper. The deeper you go into it, the more questions you ask yourself. What is their religious standing? Do they have a particular religion that they're very part of? Do they just kind of identify with it, but they're not really? Do they call themselves spiritual, but they don't really call themselves religious? All of those kind of things make a difference when we really take the time to go through all of those. And that's part of why I created the custom GPT is I want to help you with that. Then we have the answer to all of our questions. Because if she's going to be there and we're invited to speak, we want to go. If she's going to be there and we can be in the audience and potentially meet her, we want to go to that event. On the other hand, if we're invited to speak on a podcast and it's for somebody that is not at all like your avatar, it's really not worth your time. There are so many other things you could do that make you visible and valuable, but don't take up your time away from meeting the needs of that person. Again, the whole key behind being visible is you got to be visible, but then you also got to be visible to the right people. Okay. So you're going to go through the GPT after you go through all three of these videos. But first, I want you to go live. We're going to grab our phone again and we're going to go live. We're going to follow this prompt. The one person my message is truly meant for is, okay? I want you to tell us that. I want you to even go a little longer this time. So the one thing my message is truly meant for is, and what they're really struggling with right now. In fact, I want you to go more personalized with that. You are the one person my message is truly meant for. And I know what you're struggling for right now is. Okay, so we're going to tell them who they are. You are the one person that my message is truly meant for. You're the person who is going through. And what you're really struggling with right now is, and I can help. Okay, go live with that. All right. Now for the second part of our one of discovering them and then meeting their needs. What does your one person need? What is the thing that they struggle with? We talked about this a little bit in the last segment. We were talking about the thing that they're struggling with right now, but we want to really dive into this. We want to know this person like you know your best friend, like you're sitting across from them and you're just there in their space and you're there for them and you want to help them. You want to pour into them and give them what they need. Not what you want to give them, but what do they need? What does this dear, wonderful, precious soul, what is their burning thing? We've talked before about them being the person that's up late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're Googling. What is it they're Googling? Maybe they want to be famous. They want to know how to make a video go viral. Or maybe they just want to know how to be able to get better sleep at night. Because, they're up at 2 o'clock in the morning Googling, right? Okay. Or they may be on ChatGPT or something like that and going deeper with that. What is that struggle? What do they worry about? What are they concerned about? What are the things happening in their life that cause them to want to give up and quit? What are the things in their life that they're so fiery passionate about that no matter what comes, they find a way to brush themselves and off and get up and get going again? What are those things that they're searching for? Before we can even get to how you're going to meet their needs, we need to know what their need is. And we need to find it really clearly. We can't, again, say something generic like, well, they'd like to be, they'd like to be more well known. Well, what does well known mean? Does that mean that they'd like to have two or three people that are live on with them every time they go live? Or does that mean that they want to have 1 million followers? Does that mean that they aspire to be the next Oprah Winfrey? Or they'd like to have the courage to be able to start a podcast even if nobody listens? I'm not saying that that person who starts a podcast couldn't become the next best host of the greatest television show we've ever heard. But if they're in that starting spot, their concern at this point might just be, how do I get started? How do I get beyond? They might be, like I've talked to you in other segments, they might be somebody who's just struggling with showing their face on camera. They're like, oh, I could talk forever. I've done my podcast for years, but I'm not coming on live. I'm not letting anybody see me. Or speaking of live, I'll do a video and then go back and re-edit it and run it through a program that takes out all my filler words and all of that kind of stuff. And then I'll put it out. But I'm not going to do it live. People might make fun of me. Somebody might come in and say something mean to me. Or maybe the thing they're struggling with is I tried to go live, but then somebody came in and they said something really nasty to me and it really hurt my feelings, and I don't want to do that again. Or they posted something and they got a negative feedback, and so now they don't post. You see, when I talk to you about visibility, I talk to you about, being consistent and about what to talk about and about doing it and about doing it scared. Because I know that, you're struggling with consistency and you're struggling with showing up and you often don't want to show your face on the camera and you've gotten some negative feedback and now you're afraid to do it again. And that's why I always come back to telling you somebody's waiting on you. You see, just like I'm using in my messaging, this messaging is born out of taking the time to really know who you are so that I can then help you with the things that you need help with. Does that make sense? All right. So our prompt for this one, going to go online again. We're going to go on live. I know you're going to do it. I believe in you. Your prompt is, what is your one person desperate to solve, understand, or experience right now? So let's put that in a statement form. My one person is desperate to solve, or my one person is desperate to understand how to. My one person is desperate to be able to experience this right now. Okay? Know them. And then if you want to get even more personal with it, say, hey, I know you. You're my one person. And I know that you desperately need the solution for how to be visible. Now, visible's fine, okay? But see how I did that? I know that you're desperate for how to be visible, and I've got the solution for you. I mean, you're with me, so that was one of the things you were dealing with, right? How does that make you feel when somebody says, hey, I got you? We got this. We're going to do it. Okay? So go live, tell your person, or at least tell the world, my one person is desperate to find the solution for, and then tell them what that solution they're looking for. Again, we're still not even talking about your solution. We're just simply talking about their problem and that they're desperate to find it. Okay? All right. Part three is, how does your one thing meet their needs? So we talked about your passion, your purpose, and how your passion and your purpose boils down to being one thing. Of all the things in the world you could teach people, what's the one thing you have to make sure you teach them? So now that we know who our person is, we know what they desperately need an answer for, right? Now we look at our one thing, we bring it all back together, and we're like, hey, with this one thing that this person needs, with as desperately as they need it right now. This is my solution. This is what I discovered. This is what I've lived out. And now I can pass it on to the next person. You see, I trudged through that swamp and I didn't know where any of the stones were. And there was a nice, safe pathway through the swamp, but I didn't know it. So I just slouched through all the dirt and the yuck and the mud and the everything. And then when I got to the edge of the thing and I crawled out of the swamp, I realized that if I had taken 2 steps over, that there was this beautiful, well-lit path. Or, there was no path when I went through it. It was just a horrible, horrendous, stinky, smelly, yucky swamp. And as I was digging my way through it, I was going, I think I can, like the little engine that could, right? And I was telling myself, if I get through this swamp, I'm going to build a bridge over this swamp so that nobody else ever has to go through this swamp again. And then after you built that bridge, then you realized that there's some people that were already stuck in the swamp, and you were like, oh, I see those people down there in the swamp, but I feel bad for them too. And so you started building on ramps onto your bridge, every little element of the swamp. See, your one solution is the go from here to there. Don't avoid the swamp completely. But if you're in the swamp, let me show you how to get out. Doesn't that feel good? We want to help that one person. I know you do. Absolutely you do. It's what you're passionate about. That's what your whole purpose in life is. That's why they're your one. Is because they can allow you to bring the one thing that you need to share with the world out and help that one person. Because if you only just ever help that one person, that would be more than enough. And even though you know deep down inside it's going to help millions, with each person you work with, that's more than enough. That is the solution. That is the it. It's the shiz because you're so glad that you got to help that person. They find clarity in the book that you wrote. They find peace in your solution. They find hope in your message. They want to be a part of your movement because they see that bridge that you've built and they don't want to go through the swamp or they want to get out of the swamp. I mean, maybe your message is specifically for people who are halfway through this icky swamp and you have an off ramp to get out of it. Whatever your one thing is, it's absolutely perfect and it's meant to meet the needs of that one person. And you want to share it with them. You want to be really clear on it so that when we then start talking about writing your book, you're going to see how all this is going to come together and help you be very powerful at being able to really help that one person. Because visibility is so powerful. You know what you were born to do. Let's be laser focused on what we're doing and meet the needs of your one. Meet their need powerfully. Show up like you've never shown up before, like they're the only person in the world, and meet their needs. All right, one more prompt. Get out your phone again. Ready to do another one, right? All right, finish this sentence. The one thing I was born to do is, and it helps my one by, okay? The one thing I was born to do is, and it helps my one by, okay? Fill in that sentence. The one thing I was born to do is, and it helps my one by, by doing, by learning, by being, by seeing, okay? And go live, all right? You got this. And then after you've been through all of this, then I want you to go in, use the link to the definer that we've got for your one. You'll have some insights here that's going to help you just really skyrocket to a place that's going to make this feel so super powerful and is going to bring it all to light for you. You've got this. I believe in you. You're awesome. And the person that you're meant to serve is so glad that you're taking the time to outline all of this and then do all of it because ultimately you're doing it all just for them. Thanks for doing it. I appreciate you. Have a great day.